sounded like a train.
Drive-By Truckers are a country rock band from Athens, Georgia, which is in America. They've been active since 1996 and are still going. They've had some turnover of members, and at times they've had a 3-guitar lineup. Jason Isbell was a member of the band for about 7 or 8 years. They tour a lot, and they have produced 14 studio albums and 7 live albums so far. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a mini review of The Dirty South by the Drive-By Truckers. So this was their 5th album, and it's my first time listening to it. And this is during the period in the Drive-By Truckers' history when Jason Isbell was part of the band, who is also known for his solo work. So I have reviewed 2 Drive-By Truckers albums before. I've had somewhat mixed reactions to them. I think one was in the 60s, one was in the 70s. And I would describe this as rock with country leanings. Acclaimed Music says this is southern rock, and I'm okay with that. So when I hear southern rock, I think Creedence Clearwater Revival. No, wrong band. Leonard Skinner, generally. And yeah, I mean, it's not the same, obviously, because it's a different band, but there's elements of that in here. So the rock kind of backing ranges from fairly hard rock to quite soft rock. And as I said, there's occasional country elements in there. The countryness kind of sometimes it comes through in the kind of the music, particularly. There's a kind of bass line which goes 1 and then down to 5, dum 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 dum, which is very country, which is used sometimes. The accents when singing are definitely Southern American, so that it also gives it a kind of country feel. But it's not strong, and it's occasionally it's a bit much for me because I'm not a huge fan of country for lots of reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. But otherwise, musically, it's okay. Occasionally, I'd say actually it's quite nice. There's a mix of people singing. So what I think is happening, and so my information almost entirely is from Wikipedia on things like this. There are 3 songwriters, so Cooley, Hood, and Isbell, and I think that they're singing their own songs. But please, if you know that I'm wrong, or in fact you know that I'm right, please let me know in the comments below. The best voice is Isbell. The other 2 are a bit wayward at times, I would say, but yeah, they're okay. It's not a big problem. And they are story songs, so this is another thing that kind of makes it feel somewhat country-ish, because country is full of story songs, most of which are actually somewhat engaging, I would say. Daddy's Cup is probably the best. To my mind, some of them are a bit on the slushy side, and yeah, with reference to Daddy's Cup, it's a sure sign of country influence when grown men call their fathers daddy. So I'm not going to talk about all of the songs. If you look at the Wikipedia page for the album, which I will put a link in the description, then it does talk through all of the songs, which is not something you get for most albums. I'm just going to highlight a few. So, The Day John Henry Died is another song about the legend of John Henry, who was a steel-driving man who was made holes in rock for dynamite to go in. I have heard other songs about him. I think there's one that's really well known, but you come across this name, John Henry, quite a bit. Daddy's Cup, which I mentioned before, is about kart racing. And then there's a trio of songs that are actually all together, which are The Boys from Alabama, Cottonseed, and The Buford Stick, which are about Sheriff Buford Pusser, who had a crusade against drugs and vice, and there was a film made about him. Yeah, so that sounds interesting. Some of that is from the other point of view, so from the point of view of the people that he had a crusade against. It's a rich album. There's lots of songs. Actually, it's quite a long album. There's varied content in here, so there's quite a bit to dig into. And I enjoyed it in patches, I think. So the kind of variety in how much I enjoyed it goes from somewhere, if I'm going to put numbers on it, somewhere in the mid sixes to somewhere in the mid, even slightly higher sevens. So I've kind of averaged those two to give this score of 7.2, which is what I'm going to give it. So that's what I think of this album. I'd love to know what you think, though. So please do add your thoughts in the comments below. That's it from me for now.
I got green and I got blues, and every day there's a little less difference between the two.